Hi, I'm Suzanne, and welcome back to our weekly live Instagram and Facebook program that we have on talking about plants. This week we're going to be talking about succulents, and it's a beautiful day here in Southern California. It's really, really warm, so I hope you're all at home with a nice cold lemonade and just want to listen in to what we're going to be discussing. The first thing I would like to talk about is how to plant your succulents. Succulents, if you put them in a pot or in the ground, the most important thing that you want to focus on is drainage. You do not want their roots sitting in any sort of water for an extended period of time. So if you're putting them in the ground, you might want to put some of this cactus mix in there to help get the water to drain away from the roots, and then just keep an eye on the plant each week. You kind of want it to almost dry out in between, but not quite. The kind of side note that I'd like to point out about succulents. So many people talk about how succulents are basically like you never have to water them. But that's not true. Succulents need water, and this is a really good case in point. I found this one buried behind a shelf here, and this is a succulent that has not been watered properly. And so although it's very much alive, and we can bring it back to looking optimal by just getting it a lot of water regularly, and then it's going to soak back up. The key word with succulents is succulent. It means they're juicy. It means they're full of water, and that's why they can live without being watered as much, but they won't look as nice. Look at this one. This isn't the exact same plant, but it's very close. This is fully succulent. This one is definitely dehydrated. So, oh look. So just note, they will live off the water in them, but they're gonna look so much better if you water them regularly. Just keep them nice and plump. That's the best way. And like I said, they'll live without the water, but they won't look as good. So, water them regularly. If it's once a week, that's great. Just water them slowly and deeply and make sure that they get that water that they need. In the summer, that's their drier time. So you still want to just water them once a week, because some of them will look a little less good in the summer. Things like aeoniums, they have a tendency to like close up a little bit and get less full, but they'll come right back out in the winter. That's their optimal time. And you can remember that a lot of succulents don't come from the desert. They really don't. They come from kind of more like one side of the good side of the mountain area. They do get a lot of water. That's how they grow and look beautiful like this. So water regularly. Keep them nice and plump. And if you notice that your succulents are burning, keep in mind that some of them will burn. If they're more of a pale color like this and they've been raised in a greenhouse, they could burn until they get a little bit more used to it. But if you're out in the desert or out in, kind of more inland areas and it's really, really blazing hot in the afternoon, don't put them up against your hottest wall. Give them that morning sun and they'll be much, much happier. They're not a cactus. They're a succulent, which is same thing, but not all succulents are cactus. So just keep that in mind. They really like to have that regular water. When I started thinking about what to talk about today, I realized there are too many succulents to discuss. So I'm just going to focus on some really popular ones and show you what I think is really fascinating, how different a succulent within a certain species is. How it can look so different. So everyone is familiar with poinsettias at Christmas time. Those are a succulent. They're part of the Euphorbia family, and there's a kind of a myth that poinsettias are poisonous. They actually just have a sap that's not very good for your skin. Some people are very, very sensitive to it. It'll burn their skin and kind of bubble it. And some, like me, you can get it on there and it does nothing. But you never, ever, ever want to get it on your face or in your eyes. So if you think of your poinsettias, then you look at this. This is your sticks on fire. It's Euphorbia Cali. So think about a poinsettia and think about this beautiful sticks on fire that can get 6-8 feet tall and just grow like crazy. When you get a plant like this, keep in mind how big it's going to get, because pruning it back is actually a bear, and people have been kind of hurt by when they're pruning it. If they get that sap, which I don't think you can see it, but there is a milky sap that comes out of there. If you get it in your eyes, it can actually make you go blind, but it won't kill you. So not a poison. So these are also Euphorbias, and a lot of people think of these as just a landscaping plant, but these are succulents. These are Euphorbias. This is Glacier Blue. They also have one called Tiger Stripe. This one here is Purpurea. They get the most beautiful flowers on the top of it. And the flowers, well, I'll show you what the flowers kind of look like in a minute, but this one is called Ascot Rainbow. This one is about 3 to 4 feet tall and are a great, great garden plant. You'll just cut them back kind of in the winter to keep them all nice and tight. This here is Euphorbia Miliai. These are also called crown of thorns. This is a euphorbia, and these little colorful things here are not actually the flowers. Just like on poinsettias, the red part isn't the flower. It's that little tiny part right there that is the flower. And these are gorgeous, and they have a million thorns on them. They're just beautiful, but the flowers on these euphorbias is very similar to this, just a more green or a lime green color. Oh, there's a question.
So we know that you mentioned that the poinsettias are not poisonous to humans. Would the same be said for animals?
I think it depends on each animal and each person. It's not something you want your animals munching on because of that sap. It could probably maybe burn the delicate skin of their mouth, but I don't think it's actually a poison, but I'm not quite certain. Again, Chihuahua versus Great Dane is a big difference. So this is also a euphorbia. This is one of my favorites. It's called Medusa's Head, and you can kind of tell why. It's got these beautiful, beautiful just armlets of this, and you can see the little flowers, and those are the actual flowers on there, kind of like the center of a poinsettia. And this will send out little babies on the side, just like this. It's gorgeous. It's really a fun thing just to put as a simple thing in a pot. So that's some euphorbias. I have some really big euphorbias over there. I couldn't quite carry them over here, but maybe later we'll just kind of point at them. But they look sort of like a desert cactus. They're not quite the same. So the next up is Echeverias. Echeverias are what a lot of people call hens and chicks, because you'll have a central rosette or flower in the plant, and it's going to send out a lot more on the side. And chicks are these here. These are Semper Vivums. I'm not going to get into them too much today, but you can sort of see how they got that name, hens and chicks. Really, really beautiful, super hardy, can actually live through the winter. So it's the most hardy succulent you can find. But anyway, this is the original hens and chicks. Okay, so back to Echeverias. Look at this gorgeous thing. This one is called Red Baron, and it's getting ready to send out a little shoot here, a little flower. Here we go. Isn't that gorgeous? And then we have this little Echeveria Agavoides, and I'm going to kind of tell you a little something about this and this one down here called Lipstick, which looks kind of similar, but it's not. It's a hybrid from this one. Got this beautiful blue curls. I've got Pearl from Nuremberg. I've got, ooh, this one. Look at this gorgeous one. And this one is flowering. So it's funny, a lot of people will come here to Rogers Gardens and they don't like these flowers. Some are more pretty than others, but this one is gorgeous, and hummingbirds love these flowers. So if you can, leave them on there, and when they're done, you're just going to chop them off right down at the bottom here, and then the plant's just going to keep growing. They'll only flower about once a year, so I think they're really pretty. Another euphorbia, just so many euphorbias, and then we have this beautiful, beautiful, my personal favorites, the furry euphorbias. You have a question?
Best practices for starting a new pot of succulents.
Oh, okay. Well, going back to that, using really good drainage. So you can use just regular potting soil as long as you've got a really good drainage hole in there. If you want to help it a lot, say you have some kind of more hardy succulents, you'd want to put a little cactus mix in there or put some pumice in there to help with that drainage. It's just so important that the pot drains really well. You just want the water going by the roots and staying a little bit moist but not super wet. That's the one way to really kind of not help your succulents, is to have them too wet. They'll rot out, and that's a pretty common thing here. So drainage in the ground. Again, put that put that cactus mix in there. Okay, so we're gonna hurry up. Gosh, I just knew I had so much to talk about. Kalanchoe, Kalanchoe, Kalinkio, whatever you want to call it. This is Kalanchoe, and a lot of people are familiar with this one right here. It's a great plant to put in a pot, put it in your garden for tons of color. After it blooms, you just pinch back all the flowers and it'll bloom again. But we also have these beautiful tomentosas, different varieties. This is a really beautiful hybrid of Autumn Joy. Yes?
Questions, would you recommend any succulents for a living wall?
Oh, absolutely. On the other side of me, there is a whole living wall with all succulents. And the only thing I would say, just be really careful about choosing the right succulent for it. You want ones that stay a little bit smaller, maybe. Don't get as gigantic as, this might be a little big for a succulent wall, a little heavy. So try and find the ones that stay small. And then also, you want to work with the ones that fall beautifully. It's always going to give that beautiful moving effect. This is a bunch of Senecio over here. So again, another plant that looks so different, but all under the same umbrella of Senecio. Look at these and these beautiful string of pearls, also Senecio. Senecio skyscraper, Senecio mandrillesii. This is a great landscaping plant. And my favorite one that I showed as a good example of a lot of good moisture in there is this. It's called Little Pickles. So what?
So we have a comment from somebody, and
okay.
Vicky says that her biggest challenge is keeping her succulents alive in the house. So can you walk us through this for a minute or so?
Yeah, succulents in the house it's a challenge for anyone. So the most important thing to remember is to not overwater them and to try to have them in a container that has drainage that you're going to have to, water, let it drain out fully. If you're going to put it in a container that has no drainage, you have to be on top of that moisture level like a surgeon. You just want to put just enough to keep the plants alive, but not enough so that any water sits in the bottom of the container. And some people are very good at this. I would say the bigger the succulent, the easier it is to keep alive in the house. It's easier to keep like an agave alive in the house than it is to keep something like this if you're watering too much, because the roots can just rot really easily. But if you're having any problems, water less, and make sure that you kind of rinse them off occasionally, because sometimes spider mites will get in there. That's also a problem with succulents in the house, just mites in the little cracks and crevices. So, anything else? Okay, well, that was like a whirlwind tour of beautiful, beautiful succulents. Oh gosh, I forgot this beautiful, this is my favorite Kalanchoe. So it's called Kalanchoe pumila, and it is, can you even believe it's in the same family as this? It's just, but this is a gorgeous thing. It has the most beautiful pink flowers on it. It is great in a succulent wall. If you want to put it in a living wall, it'll drape down. It is just a steady Eddie great plant. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking about succulents because it's just so much. Look at that Hayworthia. Tomorrow we have Sarah at 9 a.m. She's going to be talking about avocados, and There's so much to learn about avocados. It's going to be amazing. And of course, next week we'll be back again. So we hope to see you soon. If you have any questions, send them to our pages. And if you like, refer a friend, shop online, go to rogersgardens.com for everything that you need, okay? Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.